WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station.
That's us. We're back here, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. 215-204-9449 is the number if you want to hop on board with us. Now joining us on the hotline is a man who is great for NBC 10 here in Philadelphia, and he is Temple made, a Temple alumni, and that is John Clark. John, it's Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. It brought back some real good memories there on campus.
Well, we're a little bit curious about what your life was here at Temple and what did you do as you were an aspiring media student. We have Spring Fling coming up this week. That's always fun. You have the Cherry and White game on Saturday. So take me back a little bit. What was John Clark like in his college days?
Well, I transferred from Penn State Delaware County campus to Temple there because I wanted to get involved in broadcasting, and I jumped in there at the old WRTI radio, and then Temple Update, the TV program with Rick Beardsley, and somehow Temple was able to make something out of me, and I will always be gracious and real appreciative because Temple offers one of the best opportunities in America for broadcasting because you can actually get on the radio when you're in college. You can actually get on Temple Update when you're in college, and the big thing is there's so many great internships in the fourth largest media market in the country, so there's so many opportunities at Temple.
Now, John, I actually anchor Temple Update, and we have a new sports program, Al Sports Update. I anchored that as well. How was your time with TUTV?
Well, you know what? I couldn't make it as an anchor. I didn't make the cut, so I needed to work harder, and that I did. So it was a great learning experience. I wasn't ready and needed a lot more practice. And I used to get a video camera and go into my dorm and just practice talking, giving the news, giving the sports and stuff like that. So it's a grind, and if you just keep at it, you can get somewhere.
John Clark joins us from NBC 10 here in Philadelphia. And, John, I know you're at the Eagles facility today, and this Eagles team, they are number 4 in the draft coming up next week. The big talk is, do they go quarterback? Do they take Geno Smith to try to be the next big quarterback here in Philadelphia, or they do the safe pick with the lineman? What do you see the Eagles doing on draft day as they sit there at number 4?
You know what? That is the million-dollar question. It's just interesting to me because Howie Roseman today talked about a lot of talent up there at the top in defensive tackle and offensive tackle. So they definitely could go offensive tackle. Of course, if Andy Reid takes Luke Jokel, maybe they go Eric Fisher. But I'll tell you what, it's still in the back of my mind sits there that Jeff Lurie may see Geno Smith. Jeff Lurie, the owner, the last time he went on a trip to see a draft pick, a prospective draft pick, it was Donovan McNabb. So Jeff Lurie went on that trip, which leads you to believe that Chip Kelly and Howie Roseman think that Geno Smith could be a possibility there. And I don't know for sure, but you need a franchise quarterback eventually. And if you look at who's coming out next year, there's no guarantee. There's no great quarterbacks coming out next year that are guarantees. So if Chip Kelly thinks that Geno Smith can run his offense and can be a leader, I think you've got to go Geno Smith because you're not going to be able to advance his program here at the Eagles without a franchise quarterback.
I totally agree with you. Look at the league these days. It's a quarterback-driven league. Elite quarterbacks, they win, they get to the Super Bowl, and they do the job well. You see Geno Smith, what do you think he could bring to Philadelphia if he is the next Eagles quarterback?
Well, I think he can run Chip Kelly's offense or a variation of it. And, I think he's got the skills. I think he's got the ability to run, and I think he's got the ability to make quick decisions, which is what Chip Kelly is going to require. I think the only question, and I can't answer this, only Chip Kelly, Howie Roseman, and other people who have met with him and dealt with him, is can he be a leader? Because one of the things in the NFL, a quarterback has to have a presence and have the ability to lead men. I think that's the only question about Geno Smith. I think he has the ability to run Chip Kelly's offense, and I think he can throw the ball. You saw Colin Kaepernick. I mean, Colin Kaepernick would not be the quarterback he is if he could only run it, but he can get back there and sling it. So I think if they believe Geno Smith can be, and nobody's assured of anything, or it's not a guarantee, but if they believe that he can be the quarterback of the future for them, I think that they have to make that move, because you can get an offensive tackle somewhere else. You can get a defensive tackle somewhere else, but a quarterback is the guy that changes a franchise and can make Chip Kelly's program what it needs to be over the next couple of years.
Kelly comes over from Oregon, and he's only been on the job for a few months, so it's tough to judge what he's done, especially since they haven't played a game or even entered the draft yet. But he comes over, and it was a risky hire. Some people viewed it that way, because whenever you bring in a college coach, it's either hit or miss. But what have been your early impressions so far with one Chip Kelly?
Well, I think he's all business. The players, I think, will enjoy him because he knows how to relate to younger players. And I think a lot of players at Oregon looked at him as a cool coach. So I think that the players are going to enjoy him. When the players came in for their conditioning a week or two ago, they were really surprised. They did not expect to run as much as they actually did. And a bunch of players came in having lost some pounds because they knew they had to be ready to run. But it's everything he does. Everything he does is up-tempo in the building. When they're working out with weights with the new Navy SEAL strength and conditioning guy, their workouts, their lifts are at an accelerated rate because everything is programmed to run faster and more plays and up-tempo in the game. So every single thing that they do is geared towards getting these guys ready to play at a fast-forward pace because, you look at Oregon, they ran 80-plus plays per game last year, which is the most in the country in college or the pros. So this is definitely going to be a unique and interesting offense. And I think Chip Kelly, from what you've seen, I don't think he has a lot of rules as far as personnel. I think what you've seen is guys who are able to play different positions. You saw that on offense. And then defense, you're going to have guys that can play outside linebacker and defensive end. And I think he likes versatile guys who he can mix up and have interchangeable positions with certain guys.
Now, John, switching gears to the basketball scene in Philadelphia, it was announced earlier that Doug Collins will resign as Sixers head coach at season's end. A couple weeks ago, Adam Aaron came out and said that he wanted Doug Collins back, and Doug's agent last night said that Doug was going to return next season and possibly for future years. But him stepping down at season's end, what do you make of that whole situation?
Well, I think privately, Doug Collins has known for the last couple of weeks, maybe even a month, that he was not going to return as Sixers coach. He's 61 years old. He has all the money he needs. He's got a lot of grandchildren that he wants to see. And when Andrew Bynum didn't play at all this year and they didn't have the hope that they all wanted, and then you look at next year, I mean, honestly, this team is going to be in purgatory for the next couple years unless they're able to bring back a healthy Andrew Bynum and get him to play almost a full season. So I think Doug Collins looked at this and said, there's no hope here. He's 61 years old, so he said, you know what? It's time to move on. And look, Doug is a guy who does get burnt out. He's never lasted more than 3 years in his other 3 stops. He wears his heart on his sleeve, a lot like Dick Vermeil, and he's got burnt out here. And he got frustrated. He couldn't get these guys to play defense the way he feels they can. And this, I think, is the best thing for the organization because going forward, this team does not have hope of contending over the next couple of years. So I think they need to find a good, younger coach that can coach up these younger players.
Obviously, that Andrew Bynum trade has blown up in the organization's face. They gave up a lot to get him. He has not even played a game, and he just received surgery on both knees about a month ago. If you were to bring him back, what's the dollar and year figure that you would give Andrew Bynum?
Well, I guess I would probably do a deal for 2 years, $10 million per.
Okay.
But you're just going to have to wait and see what the market is. I'm sure there's a team or two out there that is willing to give him a 2 or 3 year deal, maybe even a 4-year deal at $10 million or something like that. The thing is, for the Sixers, the only way they can save a little face here is if Andrew's knees are deemed to be healthy enough for him to play surgery and after the rehab. And they can actually make this deal look okay. The alternative is to have that money, that $16, $17 million, and the ability to go get a free agent. But what free agent is going to want to come here to Philadelphia it's going to cost that amount of money? I don't think there's a free agent out there that would have interest in coming to Philadelphia. So the Sixers are going to be completely stuck, and their actual best option, if Andrew Bynum's knees are healthy, may be to bring him back if they can get a deal that's conducive to them, a short-term deal at maybe 10 per.
John Clark joins us on the hotline. Zach Gelb, Chase Sr. here with you. John, right, final one here right before we let you run. Just go into a little baseball. Roy Halladay, he just looked like he had no confidence after that start against the Mets. He was very deflated in the postgame, and he comes out yesterday. And I understand that the Marlins aren't the best hitting team in baseball. They're not going to do a whole lot yesterday. But do you see yesterday as a confidence builder for one Roy Halladay?
I do, and it's tough to judge yesterday because that Marlins team is almost like a split squad.
They're terrible. They're pretty bad.
They're awful. I mean, they're one of the 6th worst teams ever to start a season offensively this bad. So I think you hit the nail on the head. Confidence. In sports, anytime you've been beaten down and you're frustrated, as Doc obviously was after that second bad start, when you saw him basically open up his soul to the media and tell that he was even wondering if he can get it back. I think confidence is the best thing here. He said, I think he basically can say to himself, I know this is a bad Marlins team, but you know what? I went out there and pitched 8 innings in just 87 pitches, which is very, very impressive. And I think he's got the confidence now where he tells himself, you know what? I can once again go after some guys here. He threw a lot of strikes, and he wasn't nibbling on the corners like he was in his first 2 starts. And I think this gives him a little more confidence to go after some hitters and have the belief again that he can get major league hitters out.
The Phillies are in a stacked division alongside the Nationals and the Braves. They have some solid pieces in place, and we've seen what Chase Utley and Ryan Howard are able to do when able to stay healthy. They brought in some youth with Don Brown and Ben Revere, and that pitching staff is still one of the better ones in the major leagues. Do you see this Phillies team being able to make a playoff run?
Well, that's a tough question. I can see this Phillies team contending, but if you're asking me right now, are they better than the Nationals or Braves?
Probably not.
I don't think so. But hey, Ruben Amaro, over the last 4 years, he has always gone out and gotten a player that can put them over the top. So if this team is in contention by the trade deadline, Ruben Amaro might make a move here. But I got to tell you, looking at the Braves and looking at the Nationals,
they've looked really good so far.
Yeah, and I know the Braves are off to a hot start. I think they'll come back to earth, but I still look at the Nationals, and I don't see any holes on the Nationals, and that's the only problem. I think the Phillies are a contending team and a possible playoff team, but the problem is the Nationals and the Braves have passed them by in a way and gotten better. So maybe the Phillies of the last couple of years, if they had this team last year and had guys healthy, they could have made the playoffs, but it gets even tougher this year with the Nationals and Braves getting better.
John, we always enjoy talking to a Temple guy. We appreciate the time today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
John Clark right there of NBC in Philadelphia. What we'll do now is we'll take a quick break. Stadium Talk is coming up next at 12 o'clock, and we'll wrap things up as we'll reach the home stretch on WHIP.
I get knocked down, but I get